Tropic Thunder is a 2008 action comedy film directed by Ben Stiller. The movie features an ensemble cast that includes Stiller himself, Jack Black, Robert Downey Jr., and others. The film is a satirical take on the movie industry as well as a spoof of the entire war film genre. It features a group of actors who are filming a war movie but find themselves in a real life conflict. The actors, unaware that the dangers are real, continue to act as if they are in a movie, leading to humorous and absurd situations.
I am New York City, zero budget guerrilla filmmaker Sean Weathers.
And I am Canadian screenwriter and playwright Angus Cohen. And we're about to explore Tropic Thunder. The No Rules Film School is now in session.
So we already did the recording for the audio commentary for the movie. So we did talk about this extensively a lot. And two things I come away with that thinking is this film is hilarious because I laughed out loud a lot, more than I have watching a movie in a long time. But the satire isn't really that biting at all, as not as much as I think the satire is more a promotional tool than something that was given to it by viewers. I think it's like they gave that title to themselves, but nonetheless, it was very funny.
Yes, it is very funny. It is very entertaining. Yeah, I agree. I don't think it's like a really sharp satire. I think it's more of a broad comedy, more of a broad parody. They're having a lot of fun, a lot of over-the-top stuff, but not really any deep thoughts in terms of Hollywood or anything else. Really, it's just basically a fun movie.
Yeah, I think to do a true satire, you have to offend people in a way where you're critiquing how they do things or what they do or how they live their life or how they conduct business or their politics or their views. Unless you're challenging people in some kind of a way about how they conduct themselves, it's not a true satire. You know, I view more of a satire as like, hey, you're critiquing society, you're critiquing politics, you're critiquing something. And they're not really critiquing the film industry. You don't come away thinking about, man, the film industry is really corrupt, or geez, I didn't think they'd go there. You know, it's obviously offensive in other ways, but I think that that's more offensive in the comedy and not necessarily the biting satire. It's the subject matter of the comedy is what's offensive. Oh, you're making fun of like blackface, and you're making fun of the special needs. You're making fun of, you know, whatever. I think there were a couple other things, but those were like some of the more prominent things. I think there was some anti-Semitism that people kind of felt as well in there, and
Yes.
maybe some homophobia, but the more at the forefront was the special needs and the blackface. But they weren't critiquing like Hollywood using blackface. That would be more of like a period piece, you know, if that would be something. This is more contemporary. Like who even people would have to Google blackface to even know what their people are being offended for, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And they were more going for the idea of crazy actors who are so into their role that they will do anything, or that they think they can play any character. Crazy method actors. But yeah, it's kind of a subtle thing, and especially when you see it out of context, as people did when they went to the promotional website for the Simple Jack movie. You know, they see the character being portrayed in such a way he's you know, mentally disabled or whatever, and they just did not like that because of course they don't understand what the overall intention is, and the overall intention, I'm not even sure if the audience fully understands it. You know, it's so subtle. It's just kind of, you know, everything in the movie is kind of done to get a laugh. And that's one thing with satire as well, is that sometimes it's not even overtly funny. You know, a satire can almost seem serious to people, particularly if they don't understand what it's doing. You can sort of look at it and think, oh, this is a serious thing. There was a famous story, I think, written by Jonathan Swift, or an article called A Modest Proposal, which was essentially a satire. And it was kind of about poor people in England and what they should do with those people. And so I think you could read the article and think, oh, this is a serious suggestion. But people who kind of knew got the humor in it, or they got the satire. But this movie is more concerned with getting big laughs, I think, and not being a really sharp satire of anything.
I think that's a great point. Sometimes with the satire, you got to think, wait a minute, are they being serious? No, they cannot be being serious. Are they? Like you sometimes you question yourself. It's like, wait a minute, it can be so close to reality, but just slightly over the top or slightly askewed that like it's like Trump in a way. He has like, is this for real? Is this guy like serious?
Yeah.
Wait a minute, are they really gonna elect him president? It's kind of like it's almost like that, in a way. It's just like, wait a minute, like because there was a movie called Bulworth where I think it was kind of like that, where it's like you're just being like so truthful to a point where you're not going to get elected, but oh wait a minute, they're actually voting for him. It's just like with Trump, it's like he's saying certain things where it's just like, wait a minute, is he just setting up his business for when he loses the election? But wait a minute, he's actually going to win. And there was talk about that when he first won the first time around, that he had no idea he didn't think he was going to win. He was just setting up his business opportunities afterwards. And it's like, oh, I'm actually president. But it's almost like that, where it's just like you skew the line so much, where it's like, if they take you seriously, you better watch out. Another thing is like the Homelander. There's a popular show called The Boys. There's a comic book, The Boys. I read the comic book. I've seen the show. But with the Homelander character, he is like a takeoff of like a combination, an amalgamation of like Captain America and Superman. And he's supposed to be so over the top that yet technically he's a superhero, but he's really the villain in the context of the story. But you have certain like conservative groups that actually view him as a hero. It's like, no, he's a satire. No, you're not supposed to root for him. He's really the bad guy. I think that's a true satire. It's like you kind of you ride that fence so much that some people don't really know where you're going. And we pretty much know where they're going with this. And to make fun of method actors, like, there's such a small percentage of people. Why are you picking a poor Daniel Day-Lewis? So what if he played an Indian once? He's a good actor. So he's a white guy playing an Indian. Come on. Who hasn't done that back in the day in Westerns? But yeah, I completely agree. I think that's where the movie misses a mark. It also misses the mark where I think the characters, believing they're in a movie, there's a certain suspension of disbelief you can have that these characters are so stupid that they think that these real life situations is fake. Again, what we just talked about, it's like, wait a minute, you think this is real? But you can only take that so far when it becomes so blatantly obvious that they weren't shooting a movie. And it's like they're spending days or weeks or however long in this forest. They think a movie is being shot that long, and all of everything they're seeing is somehow fake. Your suspension of disbelief kind of leaves you, and you wish they would drop that a little bit sooner than they did. I don't even know if they only dropped it like directly at the end. Final critique is that I really didn't think this movie had anything to say. It kind of bookended the movie with a fake war scene, and then at the end of the movie with like a real life scene that was virtually identical to the fake movie scene we saw at the beginning. And it was like they were paralleling each other, but I don't know what they were trying to say, because the fake fantasy war scene in the movie they're making fun of, they're parodying, is almost identical to what really is happening in the movie. So how are you? I don't understand what they're saying with they're obviously trying to say something by bookending it that way, but I don't know what they're trying to say.
Yeah, I don't even know if they are trying to say anything, or if they just think we got to have a big ending here. We got to have explosions, and it's got to be as exciting as the beginning of the movie, because that's what you do at the end of a movie.
But the
I'm
fact
not
that it
sure.
was beat for beat as the same scene,
Yeah.
they did that on purpose, obviously.
Well, yeah, I guess so. I think they thought that would be funny. It's like the fictional scene at the beginning becomes real at the end. I think they just saw that as another kind of
But the
over the
whole point of
top.
the fictional scene is to show how stupid it is. It's
Yeah, I
like
know.
this is
I
so
know.
stupid. Like it's so dumb. I can't believe we watch movies like that. Wait a minute, you're doing the exact same scene in your movie, and you want us to be like genuinely, enthralled by it.
Yeah, well, maybe the point is that when Hollywood goes over the top and does really unrealistic scenes, they're actually being really realistic and they're getting it right. Maybe that is the point of it in the end, maybe. And certainly, they don't really make a big statement in the end because they seem to go back to their life in Hollywood and they're happy and everybody's still a part of that community. Nobody says, okay, this sucks, I'm walking away. If they're really critiquing that whole system, things maybe should have been different at the end. But yeah, I think it's mainly just meant to be a good time, and it pretty much is.
Yeah, I think the only part that wasn't funny is the simple Jack stuff. That was just cringy. I'm not offended. It has zero to be offended. I'm offended by the fact that it wasn't funny.
Yes, that's right. I guess it's like was it Jerry Seinfeld who said this, that the object when you're a comedian used to be to figure out where the line is and then cross it. And as long as people laugh, you're okay. But if people don't laugh, then you're in trouble. And so I think with the character of Simple Jack, they want to go far with that. They want to be really sort of edgy. That's okay as long as the audience is laughing. But I don't know. I wasn't laughing. Maybe somebody was, but yeah, I think that is the real sin there, that it's not particularly funny.
Yeah, and I guess we can stop harping on the negatives because
Yeah.
overall it was an extremely funny movie. A
Yes.
lot of great performances, and I like the mix of comedians with genuine actors. You have like Matthew McConaughey and Tom Cruise, who are real actors who give really solid performances that are funny. And you have
Yes.
comedians that are just there giving a laugh a minute, just trying to be funny. And I think it was a good mix because if you just have only comedians or only actors, then you just don't really have that balance that you're looking for. And I thought they really melded well together because you needed a straight man at times, and you needed someone to be sincere or earnest at times and not just looking for a laugh. You needed them to like really hammer home some emotional points in the film, even though there weren't many. But I think the moments with Matthew McConaughey definitely worked because his character seemed very earnest, and I think that was going to go to a comedian previously. So I'm kind of happy he got that role. Tom Cruise, he did an awesome job in the fat suit. So I thought that was great. Some comedians kind of like didn't really hit that well for me, like Jack Black. He kind of started off really well with like his Chris Farley impression and the fake trailer spoofing the Nutty Professor remake that Eddie Murphy did. He started off kind of strong, then his character fell off. The rapper guy, his character kind of started off strong, then kind of fell off. He had that booty juice or booty sweat
Yeah,
booty sweat,
right. Booty
sweat drink, and he started off like a house of fire with that music video. But then his character was more relegated to keeping the Robert Downey Jr. character in check, and he was more so just seemed like a plot device, so people wouldn't be offended by the blackface. But yeah, I would say the best of the mix of genuine actors and funny people is definitely Robert Downey Jr. The reason we watched the film, he had the best mix. I thought his character was the best. And the movie came with a ton of extras. If you guys are going to buy the DVD, definitely recommend it because there are a ton of extras. To me, the extra that stood out was the second commentary track where Robert Downey Jr. basically did the whole thing in character. And I think for me, why it works, and I wasn't offended in any way, is he didn't really use any bad words that would like trigger people. That, obviously this was made in 2008 where cancel culture wasn't a thing. But even though cancel culture is a thing now, you can be mad at the blackface, but he didn't say anything offensive while he was in that character. he just talked like, you know, a gruff black guy. You know, he sounded black, but aside from that, he didn't sound offensive in any way. So I definitely think his performance stood out, you know, right along with Tom Cruise. Obviously, he had a bigger role, more diversity to the character he played. But overall, I thought the cast was impeccable.
Yes, and Robert Downey Jr., he kind of treads that line between being a funny guy and being a really good actor. And I think maybe if they had cast just a comedian in that part, then it would have been really offensive and it wouldn't have worked at all. I think having an actor like Robert Downey Jr., who really took it seriously and really tried to make it as real as could be, I think he really did something great with it. And actually, I don't think we mentioned this in our commentary, which everybody should go and listen to. But he actually won, or not won, but was nominated for a lot of awards for this performance, a performance which they thought might anger people, but instead he was nominated, including for an Academy Award for best performance in a supporting role. So, you know, aside from the Academy Award, he was nominated for the BAFTA Film Award, Best Supporting Actor, um, Critics' Choice Award, Detroit Film Critics. You know, there's a huge list. He was nominated for all kinds of Best Supporting Actor awards for this part. So that's something worth noting. He is really good in this.
Yeah. And we kind of picked this film centered around his career. We did a few polls going through the each decade of his career. All the fans on our YouTube channel, which you guys should check out, No Rooms Film School podcast, or No Rooms Film School, leave out the podcast. That's No Rooms Film School on YouTube. Definitely check that out. Well, you must be checking it out because the only place this video is available is on YouTube. So why am I selling a YouTube channel that you know what? Yeah, subscribe then. You could be watching this and not be subscribed. So yeah, that's where I was going with this. Yeah.
Yes.
That was my point. Yeah, of course.
Subscribe.
So subscribe to the No Rooms Film School. But yeah, that was the reason we watched it. We did a poll. So if you guys want to vote for the next movie we do, definitely check out the posts and vote on the polls. And we went by decade, and eventually we just went from the top 4 decades of his career, and this movie won. I thought Oppenheimer would win. The day of this recording, the Oscar nominations came out, and he was nominated for Best Supporting Actor in Oppenheimer, and I really thought that movie would win. But if the poll started today, maybe that movie would have won because it has a lot more momentum, and I'm sure he was great in the movie, but I'm kind of glad that movie didn't win because it looked like a long one. From what I heard, it's kind of like mixed on the fan reaction to it. I know the critics love it, but the fan reaction was kind of mixed on that one. So I might check it out at some point, but not really dying to see like a three-hour movie where it's like kind of mixed reviews. But
Yes.
but yeah, it was that, and I thought Avengers would win. It didn't, but I think at some point we should probably do an Avengers poll of just the Avengers movies and see which one people would like us to watch. Yeah, if you guys would like that, mention that in the comment section because we're always open to what type of polls we're going to do. But this movie won overall, and yeah, it wasn't like exactly like a dramatic performance that we saw when you're trying to explore an actor's career, but it certainly was a meaningful one because this and Iron Man that came out the same year kind of resurrected his career.
Yeah, totally. And yeah, be sure to listen to our commentary because there's a lot more interesting stuff in there. And in conclusion, Tropic Thunder is a bold and humorous take on the film industry, blending parody and action. Its meta elements and strong performances contribute to its overall appeal. However, it's important to be aware of the controversy surrounding certain elements in the film, as we've said. So if you enjoy action comedies and don't mind edgy humor, Tropic Thunder is definitely worth a watch. And check out our commentary as well. What other things have you been watching lately, Sean?
So unlike you, I'm not prolific in my movie watching. When you sent me that list, I'm like, Jesus Christ, like, where does he find the time? So my movie watching has gone down because honestly, I would squeeze in a few movies when I cycled to work, but because of the weather, I haven't been cycling to work recently. I've been working from home. But usually when I cycle to work, it's like an hour to work and an hour back. And I could usually like watch a movie, not like probably the movies like you're watching. I wouldn't watch a serious movie because it wouldn't have my full attention because I'm looking at the street. I don't want to get hit by a car as I'm cycling. But I watched like maybe some bad movies that I don't like that doesn't need my full attention. And some of the movies on your list would definitely qualify. But because of that, it's really cut down on the amount of movies I watch. So the only thing I really checked out recently, aside from The Sopranos, which I talked about last podcast, was South Park. And I guess they're doing specials now. The seasons are a lot shorter than they used to be, and they're focused on like Paramount specials. So I was able to check out the most recent one, and it wasn't as laugh out loud funny because South Park can be hit or miss. That's why I like the format of them having a lot of episodes. So if there's an episode that's not so great, you have another one to look forward to. The most recent episode wasn't great. They parodied the Paul brothers with their energy drinks and how
Right.
they manipulate children. So their commentary is always great. It's just a matter of like if they're great commentary, if it's really like funny jokes that really like get you with it. They talked about that and they also got into OnlyFans and stuff like that. So again, the commentary was awesome. The jokes were kind of hit or miss. I liked the previous episode better when they talked more about cancel culture and Star Wars and Disney and things like that. Previous episode a must watch, but the most recent one kind of 50-50. Commentary great, comedy not so much.
Okay, that's good to know. I haven't really kept up with South Park. I think since they did their big first movie, that might be the last one that I saw. So
That's been a while.
that's been a while. So you would recommend the previous one, not so much the new one?
Yeah, I'll get the exact titles in a minute, but you can get
Yeah,
into your movies.
yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, I watched a variety of things, and I probably won't dwell on all of them, but I think probably if I was going to pick one that was my favorite of all the ones I watched, it
Oh,
would
come
be.
on. You made me Google all those movies and you're not going to talk about
Well,
them. I wasted my
no,
time.
no, no, I'll talk about them, but I'm going to start with Yakuza Wolf. I Perform Murder from 1972, which is a movie that I had never seen and I had really not even heard of. It's a Sonny Chiba movie. Sonny Chiba, who's kind of become better known, I guess, in recent years because Quentin Tarantino has really championed him and is known to be a big fan of his movies. And I believe he even cast him in his Kill Bill series. So it's a Sonny Chiba movie. And I'd seen some Sonny Chiba movies way back in the day, but this is not one I'd ever seen. And I have to say, I loved it. I thought it was great. Um, it's kind of it's one of those movies that's maybe based on uh, uh, the book Red Harvest. There's a lot of movies that have kind of been based on this book, which is essentially it's about pitting two different gangs against each other. And so movies like Yojimbo and A
That's
Fistful
where
of
I originally
Dollars.
heard this story from was
Yeah,
Yojimbo. And I thought this
yeah,
was a copy of Yojimbo. I didn't realize
yeah.
Yojimbo copied something else.
Yeah, well, I think that book may be the origin of it, but certainly Yojimbo and then Fistful of Dollars and other movies, many other movies have used the same device. Death Wish 4, one of my personal favorites, uses that kind of device. So this movie does that, and it's I don't even remember if the original Django, the spaghetti western Django, there are some direct parallels to that, and I don't remember if Django also uses that same format of pitting the two gangs. It might, but there's some other elements in there that are a bit like Django. But basically, it's about a guy who, when he's a kid, his father's murdered and his sister disappears, is kidnapped, and he kind of grows up to be this professional killer who's out for revenge, and it's just so well done. And it just, it makes me think there's a lot of guys today who would try to do this exact same story, this kind of revenge story. and it almost makes me wonder why, because it's just done so well here and it's done so well in other movies. It kind of makes me think, what's the point? You know, you can't top it. You know, it's just so well done.
But
So
you
I
said
would
it
rec
yourself, though. It's so well done in other movies too. Like for me, after
yes.
seeing Yojimbo, I'll be like, why redo this story? But then
Well, totally,
you're right. Then
totally.
Clint Eastwood did it, and then you
Yeah.
also have I think to a certain extent the the dude. What's the movie the dude was in? Um,
Uh, you mean
The Big Lebowski.
the Big Lebowski? Yes,
Yeah,
sorry.
I think to a certain extent they use that same premise where they were pitting, where Lebowski was pitting two sides against each other as well.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's a great premise. I mean,
it
you
is.
won't, I don't know, like beat for the actual story that you said Red Harvest or something. I don't know
Yes.
how that actually plays out, but just the framework of I'm going to pit these two people against each other and have them destroy each other while I sit back and watch. That's just a great premise in general that can be used for a lot of movies.
Yeah, totally. And even leaving that aside, though, just the kind of, early 70s revenge kind of movie, which, has become so popular, I guess, among people like Quentin Tarantino and others to sort of try to do something similar. But when you go back and you watch the original, it's just like, oh man, why do I need to see all the copies, if you know what I mean? But but I get it though. I mean, I loved it, and I could see wanting to do it, wanting to reproduce it because it is great.
Yeah.
But
Real quickly, so South Park, the specials they've had is South Park post-COVID, post-COVID, the return of COVID, the streaming wars, the streaming wars part two. So they had two-parters, and then they had singular episodes, joining the Pandaverse and not suitable for children. I think they were all pretty decent. None of them like too overwhelmingly great, but joining the Pandaverse was hilarious. That was
okay,
one of the better episodes they've had in a few years.
okay,
I think they still do the show, but the show is far less episodes. Yeah, these boys are slowing down, but I still stick with them. And like I said, everyone's not going to be a hit, but when they hit, it's just incredibly funny.
okay. So the Pandaverse is the one to
The
see.
Pandaverse is the one to watch. The most
Okay,
recent one, not as good, but it's still worth a watch. And like
okay,
again, if you want the commentary is always great. Again, it's just a matter of if the humor reaches the level of the commentary. But the most recent one I watched, not suitable for children, 50-50 recommend. Joining the Pandaverse, must see. If you're a
okay.
fan of South Park or the Trey Park and those guys, because they also did like the Book of Mormon. So they've done Broadway shows,
Yes,
they've done movies, they've done
yeah,
a lot of stuff. Team
totally.
America, so a lot of
Yeah.
good stuff.
One of the other interesting things I looked at this week was a movie called The Passenger from 2021. And the funny thing is, people on Twitter had been recommending a movie to me called The Passenger, which is actually from, I believe, 2023. And when this movie came up on Shudder as a brand new arrival, I just thought, oh, it's that movie that everyone's been recommending. So I immediately watched it, and I realized this isn't the movie that everybody's been recommending. It's from 2 hours earlier, or two years earlier. So it turned out to be pretty good. It's about a guy whose business is driving people places, and so people pay him money, and he kind of drives them to other cities. Um, and so a group of people are in the car traveling, and they wind up in an accident. They hit somebody who's out hiking, and they bring that person into the car. And of course, it turns out to be a huge mistake because there's some science fiction horror stuff going on here. Actually, kind of reminiscent of an 80s movie called The Hidden, if you're familiar with that one.
Very.
There's an alien that kind of moves from body to body and that kind of thing. There's some similar stuff in this movie. I quite enjoyed it. I think it kind of has a few flaws, and again, it comes down to similar flaws where the characters make some stupid decisions, and you kind of wonder why did they do that? Why didn't they just do this? It would have made more sense. But overall, it's worth a watch, and it's not The Passenger that I thought it was going to be. I've heard really good things about that more recent Passenger, which might be a better movie, but this one is definitely worth a watch. So, Passenger 2021, check it out if you get a chance. But Yakuza Wolf, I Perform Murder, definitely the most important one to watch. We're going to just do a little bit of trivia. There's not a ton of trivia worth doing, but they had to do a bunch of takes in order to get Steve Coogan's nose to bleed during the video conference scene with Tom Cruise's character when he tells him to punch him in the nose.
Oh yeah, that was hilarious.
So they took a bunch of takes. So this is just going to be a guess, but how many takes do you think it took for them to get that nose to bleed?
You know what? I'm gonna go with the old school commercial of how many licks does it take to get the center of a Tootsie Pop?
Mr. Owl, how many licks does it take to get to the Tootsie Roll center of a Tootsie Pop?
A good question. Let's find out. 1, 2, 3.
So I'm gonna go with 3.
Okay. No, the answer is actually 15 takes. It took them
Wow.
15 takes to get that right.
What I meant to say was 3 times 5, which would be 15.
Oh, well, there you go.
You cut me off. You didn't let me finish.
Oh,
I was like 3 times 5, but you never let me finish, man.
No, I know. I cut you off there. So Jack Black apparently first declined his role in this movie, and it was for a very specific reason. Do you have any idea what that reason was?
Well, I heard him on the commentary talking about pandas. Does that have anything to do with pandas?
Well, I don't think so. Shall I tell you? Or, no, I don't want to cut you off here.
You know what? Stop talking over me. You know what? It's I remember him talking on the commentary that he didn't know how to do drugs, a drug addict. And then in the commentary, he said, yeah, I just Googled some videos. I couldn't find anything, so I winged it. Was it because he had to play a drug addict and he didn't sure he could pull it off?
No. I'll tell you what the reason is. It was because he would have to color his hair blonde. He didn't want to do that.
He's that. You mean that short little fat guy is that vain?
Apparently. So here's one that's kind of unrelated in a way, but it is.
It's funny, like not to cut you off, but it's kind of funny that we were talking about the fact during the commentary. We mentioned the fact that like they're willing to make fun of these things, but there's a certain amount of vanity to them. And we were talking about the height thing with Ben Stiller, and he kind of deflected about like the fact that he never did anything to make himself look taller, even though stories contradict that. So it's funny that someone like Jack Black even has a certain amount of vanity to him too. So it's kind of funny that that's the case. But go ahead.
It is. So various characters in this movie mentioned that Kirk Lazarus is a 5-time Academy Award winner. Now, as of the film's release, there's only one person, the record holder for most actor Oscars ever won. And that was only 4. So there's one person who's won 4 acting Oscars. Do you know who that person is in real life?
Yeah, Meryl Streep.
No, not according to this.
So male actor?
No, female.
Oh, if it's not Meryl Streep, it has to be Katharine Hepburn.
You're right, Katharine Hepburn.
I thought it was Meryl Streep. Okay.
Well, it's an interesting question, but Katharine Hepburn apparently holds the record with 4. Nobody's won 5 as of the release of the movie. I don't know. Haven't been keeping up on things, but Robert Downey Jr. and Tobey Maguire play lovers in the fake trailer for Satan's Alley within this film. Now, they actually played lovers in another movie, a real movie. Do you know which one that was?
Oh, Robert Downey. Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. He played a gay character in that one, right?
He does, but no, that's not that one.
Where else does he play a gay character?
It's from the year 2000, if that helps you.
So a little bit older than this. What are the characters he plays? With Tobey Maguire? I have no idea.
Okay, I didn't either. It's Wonder Boys from the year 2000.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So,
Oh,
John
real quick
Boyd.
before you move on.
Yes.
So I just Googled it real quick. So Meryl Streep, I knew she
Okay.
was the most for something. She's the
Okay.
most nominations.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
I have trivia for you. How many nominations did she get? And I'll give you a hint though. She won 3, so she's just behind Katharine Hepburn. But how
Okay.
many nominations did it take for her to win those 3?
I'm gonna say 10.
21.
21. Oh my God. Much worse than I ever realized. No, that's great. That's great.
Until Woody Allen's trouble with how he's viewed because of that relationship with his adopted daughter. He used to get nominated every year, just like Meryl Streep as well. But then after that happened, they stopped nominating. But there's certain people that just get nominated for movies you've never heard of. I bet you can't even name 21 movies that she's been in, much as 21 she's gotten nominated for.
Yeah, exactly. No, I don't think I could.
Yeah.
So I just want to thank my agent, Kevin Uvain, and God, Harvey Weinstein.
So on that note, maybe we should move on and talk about what's up next for the Interviewers Film School.
So next up, we have a movie that's been on the back burner for a while, and that is Sunset Boulevard. We've watched a lot of movies from 1950, one of our best and most successful podcasts. I would say our most successful podcast, honestly, by a lot, has been the one we did with All About Eve, because there's a couple of videos. We did a lot of videos for that podcast, but there's a couple of them that are some of our most watched as far as watch time, not necessarily clicks, but a couple of those videos where people just clicked on it and they watched like most of it. Most of the people that clicked on it. So very successful video, and 1950 has been a good year for us. And this is another great film from 1950. Maybe even better than some of the ones we've already watched, might be the best. But 1950 is a great year in cinema, and we're definitely going to come back to this year even after this film. But next up will be Sunset Boulevard.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. That's a great movie. Yeah, gonna be fun to look at that again.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely excited, and I think it's definitely in line with our fan base who likes the older films as well. And possibly following that, not sure, just depending on how the poll goes. If there's a definitive winner, we're going to go with a poll winner. If not, we're just going to pick a movie for our own for the movie after that. But the current poll that you guys can vote on is going to be celebrating Black History Month with one of the greatest Black actors there's ever been, dead or alive, and that is Sean Weathers, of course. You got I've been in Hookers in Revolt. I've been in Mandingo Sex Act. I'm just joking. But it's going to be Denzel Washington. And going in the order of release year, we have Malcolm X from 1992, Crimson Tide from 1995, Training Day from 2001, American Gangster from 2007. We did leave a lot of great films off this list. I would say these aren't maybe his 4 greatest films, but maybe I would say Training Day is not necessarily a great film. It's more so a great performance. I'd say the other, Crimson Tide, that may be a little controversial, but he did do a lot of movies that aren't necessarily that appealing to me. I'm not a big fan of slave movies, not because I'm necessarily offended by them. I just think they're not done that well. And he did a lot of movies like that early in his career. I didn't really have any interest in watching them. I don't think most people do either, because I don't think a lot of people watched them, but they were just critically acclaimed. So he's a very up and down actor, not a hugely commercial successful actor, but widely acknowledged as a great actor. And even some of his more commercially successful films, I don't think have aged very well, like Philadelphia. I don't think people would want to watch that now. But through a lot of deliberation, these were the four we came up with.
Yeah, they're great movies, and I think he has done a lot of other great movies, but whatever we watch, it's going to be good. So make sure to vote in that poll and have a say in which one we watch.
Right now, American Gangster is winning, but when we first did the RDJ poll, Avengers was winning, then Oppenheimer, and then suddenly out of nowhere, Tropic Thunder pulled away. So your votes count. Much like a real election, your votes count.
Absolutely. Make sure to do it. Get in there, vote, and check out the commentary we did as well. There's a lot of interesting stuff in there.